Mic check 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Thank you. Happy Wednesday to you, Central Georgia. Thanks for tuning in here for a look at your extended forecast. We have an incoming front over the next couple of hours, so we'll break down what to expect as that front begins its passage through the south and the southeast, and what kind of weather it's going to leave with us as it passes through and ushers in a very, very fall-like forecast. So a bit of a tease already to what's going to occur as we go into this weekend. First things first, there was a little bit of rain yesterday. We'll talk about some areas, specifically East Lawrence County, southern Johnson County, and the southern tip of Dodge County, where we actually did see some totals, believe it or not, that were over 1 inch. At the very most, just shy of 1.5 inches of rain south of Wrightsville. And you can see that most of these light blue shades, they were found in our south and our southeasternmost counties, a lot like what I was saying yesterday. The rain was kind of driven by the sea breeze, a couple spotty showers, maybe some pockets of heavy rain. So that's where you see more of the widespread totals that are either equating to maybe some pockets that are above 1 inch, but most areas only lucked out with a couple tenths of 1 inch of rain, or maybe even a couple hundredths of 1 inch of rain, like this location right here just north of Cadwell in West Lawrence County. But it wasn't just limited to those areas. Still some scattered shades of that light blue farther over to the west, maybe up in north central Georgia. But overall, most areas didn't find much in the way of rain. No rain in Warner Robins, no rain in the Macon area, none in Gray, none in Milledgeville, none in Irwinton, Twiggs County. And yes, that is the case for most counties, but some areas maybe caught a very short-lived and a very light shower. So we didn't record any rain at Middle Georgia Regional Airport. That allows for our year departure to go down just a touch. We'll talk about that when we talk about the almanac numbers coming up in just a bit. Cold front arriving today, and rain chances will be present this afternoon, but not just limited to the afternoon window. We're going to hold on to them into the evening and the nighttime hours, and possibly even overnight. And then cooler and clear weather is going to settle in after the passage of that boundary. We'll talk about when we'll start to feel the impacts of that cooler and clearer weather over the course of the next few days. So taking a walk around the quad here in central Georgia, it was a messy morning in terms of lots and lots of widespread fog, even some dense fog that was really prominent over the Georgia National Fairgrounds. As you can see, it's a much better image right now as many folks are already into the gates for day 7 of the Georgia National Fair. 6 or 7, one of the 2 days. And then we take a look at Warner Robins, maybe some mostly cloudy skies, not seeing too many peaks of sunshine like you do see just to the south of our camera at CGTC, and obviously the Georgia National Fairgrounds south compared to this camera that we see. And then up here in downtown Macon, mostly cloudy skies also, and it looks like our fair share of cloud cover over downtown Dublin. So our temperatures right now, they're actually still hanging out in the 70s. This was kind of what I was referring to early this morning with the combination of that surface level cloud cover and some higher level cloud cover. We could have enough blocking of the sunshine to maybe stay a bit cooler in nature. Dublin at 81 degrees, 82 at the warmest in Vidalia. Looks like these areas down in our south and our southeast are slightly warmer than the rest of central Georgia, but maybe only by a degree or two. At the very lowest, we spot a 73 in Butler, 74 to Roberta, and a 75 up in Macon. Upper 70s are pretty popular numbers here as we transition closer and closer to the midday hour. So 75 in Macon obviously looks cooler than our neighboring temperatures, but remember Vidalia sitting at 82 degrees. That's actually matching the temperature over in Jackson, Mississippi. A pair of 84s in Panama City and New Orleans. 85 for the warmest number that we see down in Orlando, Florida. And areas farther up to the north and the northwest are definitely a bit cooler. That light blue shade that's going to indicate your temperatures somewhere in the 40s, that's going to continue to get more widespread into kind of the central plains, maybe even over into the Missouri Valley region of the country over the course of the next few days, as some winds behind this frontal boundary will continue to usher that cooler air into the picture. So now taking a look at your dew point temperatures. This morning they were in the mid to upper 60s. As the temperatures increased, we did see the humidity increase, but it's not looking to be overly humid, but this is still sufficient enough humidity to influence what it feels like outside. And finally, getting a glimpse of some of the drier air up into western Tennessee. It's right up there behind the banner, and we will continue to see patchy areas of dark green, some shades of just the light green as our frontal boundary continues to drive into central Georgia over the course of the next few hours. In terms of your feels like numbers, 85 at the warmest in Dublin and Vidalia. It feels like 82 in Sandersville, or 83, excuse me, 82 in Wrightsville, 83 in Cordele, 81 in Rochelle, and 80 degrees flat up in Monticello. Everyone else is still feeling like the 70s, like their actual temperatures do say. There is not much of a breeze present, something we have not been able to say over about the past week and a half. But don't worry, as we go into Thursday and Friday, we are going to build the breezy conditions back into the forecast. But as the front continues to drive down, we will start to see at least some breezy conditions, maybe even some gusts that get up to around 15 or 20 miles per hour throughout today. And I think that's mainly going to be in localized spots that maybe catch a stray thunderstorm or two. Now going hour by hour, we'll continue the increase up into the low 80s. It does look like we'll hang out somewhere in the low to mid 80s all afternoon long. And then as we transition closer and closer to sunset, 80 degrees at 6 p.m. and hopefully we can get into the 70s for that evening time forecast, as most of the rain is out of the picture, but we still look to hang on to a bit of the rain. 85 for a high temperature yesterday, so 3 degrees above average. Your morning low temperature at 63. That's around 6 degrees above average. So it's been a story of above average temperatures, whether it's the low temperature department, whether it's the high temperature department, each of the last 2 days to kickstart the work week. Nowhere near the records, very thankfully. 95 back in 1951 and 40 degrees back in 1932 for your record highs and lows for yesterday all time. I did mention no rain at Middle Georgia Regional Airport yesterday. Your departure of rain still hovering just above 3.5 inches above where we should be. So we still have a pretty substantial cushion to undergo a pretty dry stretch of weather, and that could be what's in the cards as we start out Saturday going all the way into the first part of next week. So for today, the morning hours have been dry, but it's full of gloomy skies, some spooky skies, whether you have some fog in the picture or you just more so have some upper level cloud cover. Then as we transition into the afternoon, showers and maybe even an isolated storm or two are going to pop up into the picture. So that's why I have that sunshine icon kind of for the first part of today, but overall it should be a mostly cloudy to maybe a partly cloudy afternoon at the very least. And then we do, of course, have better rain chances as we transition into the late afternoon time period. 86 for a high temperature today. That might be overshooting it, but I'd rather overshoot it and let you know what to prepare for. If you only top out at 83 or 84 degrees, not the worst thing. And those numbers are going to feel a bit warmer, just like we were talking about yesterday. Somewhere in the upper 80s, the select few areas will more than likely pop up a 90 before the rain gets going and tries to cool some of those numbers down very quickly. So here's a look at your satellite and radar picture. The cloud cover from this morning has continued to push down towards the south and the southeast. We do have a few isolated sprinkles over here to the west of us, creeping into Upson County, maybe very close to portions of Crawford County. We did have scattered showers earlier today, and those have since fizzled out during that early morning time period. But as our temperatures warm back up, and we obviously have the humidity in the forecast, we'll look at the line of rain to kind of appear out of thin air as we go throughout the rest of today. Here's a look at the state of Georgia as a whole. Pretty hard to actually spot where the cold front itself is, but I would imagine it's somewhere up here in the north and northwestern portion of the state right now, and it is going to continue to move pretty fast down into central Georgia, and then once it gets down here into our neck of the woods, it will start to slow down in motion. That's why we're going to hold on to our rain chances for a bit longer. So this was updated as of a couple hours ago. Obviously, the frontal boundary back up into Tennessee hasn't quite made its way into central Georgia yet, but we'll continue to watch that move down in the direction these blue arrows point towards the south and the southeast. This low pressure center, obviously we don't typically talk about those too much, but this will become important as we go into the next couple of days in the forecast. Our front will continue to slide down to the south of us. That low pressure center going to slide up this boundary just a little bit. So as we continue to see that boundary move down towards Florida, That portion of the boundary looks to move over the Atlantic Ocean, and that center of low pressure is actually going to establish itself as somewhat of a tropical system, at least a low pressure system that will have some characteristics of something tropical. So let's talk about our forecast first and foremost. Future View shows that rain chances will get going as soon as around 2 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. This is going to be a broken line of showers, maybe some pockets of some isolated storms that are indicated by some of the darker orange or maybe even red colors that you see. That's not for everyone. That's just going to be in a select few areas, and consider yourself very lucky if you do catch a storm, because that's going to be associated with heavier rainfall rates, and that's going to result in some higher rainfall totals, which we desperately need given the abnormally dry or the moderate drought conditions that have settled in as we had a very, very dry and a very below average September in terms of rainfall. We go all the way into 9 p.m. tonight. It looks like most of the rain is out of the picture, but not all of it completely. Still some spotty showers that we're hanging on to past sunset, and that continues to be in the picture as we go to midnight and the overnight hours. So like I said, that frontal boundary going to move down into central Georgia very quickly, and then it's going to kind of slow its motion. So we're still going to have rain chances pop up ahead of the actual boundary. But as we transition into the morning hours tomorrow, that front continues to push farther and farther down to the south. I think by 11 a.m. to the lunchtime hour, we should be clear when it comes to the rainfall, but be prepared to have that jacket ready to go not only this afternoon and evening, but also for your morning commute as we go into tomorrow morning. But I do have more confidence in our southernmost counties seeing the rain throughout tomorrow morning as opposed to, say, a Jasper County, a Putnam County. And as we see the rain pop up today, it looks like those areas farther to the north are also maybe even going to dodge some of that line of rain that does begin to pop up. It really pops up right smack dab in the middle of central Georgia. It could even miss Macon if that rain does begin to start to rise up into the sky just as it moves down towards the south of Macon, but we'll talk about that in the Future View rainfall graphic in just a little bit. Then we see breezy conditions settle in. So obviously this front coming in from the north and the northwest, typically we would start to see a northwesterly breeze take over behind the passage of that frontal boundary, but what we're actually looking at is a high pressure center way up to the north and the northeast of us to influence our forecast and start a bit of a wedge setup. So northeast winds funneling in a lot of cooler and drier air. So going into Thursday, we will start to see conditions clear out. We'll still have a few clouds in the picture, of course, but it does look like mostly dry and some cooler weather will start to usher into the state of Georgia, and that's going to be the story as we go into the weekend. A pretty profound frontal boundary, and this wedge setup is going to help continue to push that boundary farther and farther to the south of us. This is 9 p.m. as we wrap up the evening hours on Thursday and transition into Thursday night and go all the way into Friday morning. Friday morning at 7 a.m., maybe a few clouds here and there. Some passing cloud cover could be possible as we go into the afternoon time frame. I've still elected to keep a 10% chance of rain on Friday afternoon, and that's mainly because the model run when I came into work early this morning did show a couple spotty showers within this cloud cover that tries to pass through right there at the beginning of tailgate time or right as you're wrapping up the end of the workday and the work week. We'll continue to see if that plays out. Right now, I do kind of lean more on the side of the drier air is going to be so significantly dry that I don't really think those rain chances will pop up into the picture. But if we continue to see model runs not pick up any rain chances for Friday afternoon, we'll take those off. And I imagine Ben might very well do that as he comes in and does the forecast for the evening show. Friday night at 9 p.m., just a steady breeze, mostly clear skies, and we'll continue to keep those clear conditions in the forecast as we go into the overnight hours and early on Saturday morning. But that's not necessarily the case. You do see quite a few showers and even some thunderstorms just off the Atlantic coast of Georgia and South Carolina. This is going to be something that I was talking about with maybe some form of a tropical low trying to develop as that front sags farther to the south and that low pressure center within it starts to establish itself and gets a little bit stronger of circulation and maybe some formation of something of the tropical nature as we go into the weekend. That won't have any implications in our forecast, don't worry. So fair forecast for today. Obviously, it's been a pretty good start after the fog finally got out of here. The time that you should expect rain down in Perry, I'm thinking between the 3 and 5 o'clock window. That's when things look to get a bit messy. You have the potential for seeing a storm, but overall, much better likelihood of just some spotty showers that are going to linger in the picture maybe for a bit longer than we have been anticipating, because we did see that line of rain. It was relatively thin in nature, obviously not very widespread, but that frontal boundary is going to make slow progress across central Georgia as we go across today. So that's why it could result in maybe about an hour or two of rain as we go into the afternoon window. So 3 to 5 o'clock, that's going to be the window that you probably want to make some plans to go under the clock tower, maybe go indoors, check out some of the indoor facilities that the fair does have, any of the indoor shows that they may have. High temperature in the low to mid 80s before that rain gets here. And then after 5 o'clock, I think conditions will start to steadily clear out. Going into the nighttime hours, I think it will be a very pleasant into the fair, and temperatures will drop back down into the 70s. Sunset 7:10 later on this evening. We may have our fair share of clouds in the picture. Not sure how good of an image of the sunset that you will get, and a northerly breeze anywhere from around 5 to 15 miles per hour throughout today. So today is one last warm and muggy day that we've had over the course of Monday and Tuesday, and about a 40% chance of seeing a shower or maybe an even isolated storm throughout this afternoon. Then we go all the way into tomorrow morning. Your rain chances are mainly just for the morning. We could have maybe an isolated sprinkle in the afternoon time frame, but overall what I do see happening is cooler and drier air making its presence known. So Thursday afternoon, we're finally going to feel a bit of that fall-like forecast starting to settle in. Only going to see a warm up into the mid 70s throughout Thursday afternoon. And along with that, we'll have drier air for the second half of your Thursday. That's why your rain chances are mainly limited for the morning hours. And I told you why I've elected to keep that 10% chance of rain, because like I said, the model run earlier this morning did have a few spotty showers popping up, but overall, I think it's going to be partly cloudy to mostly sunny throughout your Friday. But note this morning low as you walk out the door on Friday morning for work, maybe heading out, going to the gym, you're going to want some form of a light jacket. 54 degrees to welcome you outside, bringing back that cool and crisp fall-like feeling. And the afternoon high temperature, I for one cannot wait for it. 71 degrees for a high on Friday afternoon. That's going to fall maybe around 10 degrees below average for this time of year. Although the low 70s, don't get too used to them. They're not going to be around in the picture, but only on Friday afternoon. Here's a look at the rainfall over the next couple of days. Obviously, this goes all the way out until Friday evening at 7 p.m. We're not going to have any rain past Thursday morning. It does look like we still have the potential for maybe some rainfall totals around 2 inches in a select few very lucky areas, but it does look like we have more pockets of maybe rain of about an inch popping up, that gray color all across central Georgia. If you can find yourself in that green shaded area, that's going to be only a couple tenths of an inch of rain, like you see maybe 2/10 of an inch of rain, maybe 6/10 of an inch, or maybe close to 1 inch, about 8/10 of an inch of rain in Macon. Once again, don't get locked into what your location says specifically for rain. I think most of the totals will fall below a ½ inch of rain, but we'll have a select few areas that go above and beyond that number, like you see down in Eastman. So some pockets of maybe about an inch or two of rain, and any little bit of rain that we can get will be very welcome, because I don't think we're going to be talking about rain chances for a couple of days after we get through tomorrow afternoon. So here's a look at the humidity. As we see that frontal boundary beginning to pass through, there will be some patchy areas of that dark green color just ahead of the frontal boundary. But then after that clears out of the picture, here comes the wedge, and that's going to usher in areas of no color whatsoever. That's where you're seeing the actual landscape of the earth. Those light greens and those dark greens continue to push farther and farther down to the south. How about dew point temperatures in the low 50s as we wrap up your Thursday evening? And why even stop there? We could see a couple of dew point temperatures down into the 40s, and we'll try to see that light green color steadily rebound back into the forecast. But overall, this northeasterly breeze is going to continue to reinforce the cool and dry air that we continue to get. The only reason we're seeing maybe some shades of that light green try to build back into the forecast is because of that low pressure center establishing itself way down to the south, and that's going to be associated with a lot of moisture. But I think that's only going to really pertain to maybe coastal areas of Georgia, more so the Carolinas as we go into this weekend. How about the breeze? Well, today I did mention not too much of a breeze, but as we walk out the door tomorrow, we are going to start to see those gusts back up to maybe even 20 miles per hour. We could even see some gusts that get up to 30 miles per hour in a select few spots throughout your Thursday morning, and not even wavering or really going away as we go into the evening hours on Thursday. Still the potential for winds up to 20 or 25 miles per hour. That breeze doesn't go anywhere overnight into Friday morning. Another breezy morning. Pairing that up with morning low temperatures in the mid 50s, it is definitely going to be a chilly morning. Make plans to have that windbreaker ready to go if you're heading out the door pretty early on Friday morning, right there around sunset time, or sunrise time, excuse me. And then as we go across Friday afternoon into the evening, it does look like we still have a bit of a steady breeze in the forecast, not quite as gusty as what we see on Thursday morning or Friday morning, but there will still be some wind gusts that could get above 20 miles per hour. So it was a nice break, I guess, for yesterday and for today in terms of not having the breezy conditions in the forecast. We are going to welcome them back into the forecast as we head towards the weekend. So your morning low temperatures, 64 this morning, 64 for tomorrow morning. Then the temperature drop finally ensues. So the morning lows are going to be a bit later than your afternoon highs to start feeling some of that cooler and drier air in your forecast. 54 for a morning low on Friday. And once again, why stop there? How low can you go? 53 to 52 degrees as you walk out the door on Sunday. 53 has been the lowest temperature that we've hit in the last couple of months, and that actually came, believe it or not, it was actually 10 days into September. Yes, it was September 10th that we had a morning low temperature of 53 degrees here in Macon. Well, 52 would then claim the lowest temperature that we've seen really since maybe the early spring. It's been quite a while since we've seen some temperatures that low down into the 50s. Along with that, your afternoon high temperatures, they will see a drop, 76 for a high tomorrow. So Thursday afternoon is going to be the first time frame that we start to notice the cooler and drier air. Obviously, conditions are clearing out as we go throughout the day on Thursday. You would think that, okay, your temperatures are going to warm up accordingly like they have the last couple of days. Well, that's just showing you how much of an impact that cooler and drier air is already having on Thursday afternoon. More sunshine as you go hour by hour throughout the day on Thursday, paired up with a high temperature in the mid 70s. 71 on Friday afternoon. Maybe some areas don't even get out of the upper 60s depending on how much cloud cover we have. But then we're back up into the upper 70s very briefly. The models have been going back and forth in your high temperatures for Saturday and Sunday. I do believe they'll probably bounce back up into the mid 70s at the very least. But as long as we can hold on to any number that is below the 80-degree mark, it will feel mighty pleasant outside. And the good thing is, even though we will see a steady warm up into next week, we'll continue to keep the dry air in the forecast. How about this? Sunday into Monday and Tuesday, dew point temperatures still bouncing around from the 40s into the 50s. So that's going to be very, very dry air. Today is going to be the last day that you have to worry about those muggy conditions for quite some time. And we're going to keep our fingers crossed that we can continue to keep the drier air in the forecast. We don't mind above average temperatures, maybe around 83, 84, 85 degrees this time of year when you do pair it up with that drier air. It's really the muggy conditions that create feels-like numbers that are a couple degrees above what your actual temperature is and just make it a little bit more unbearable to be outside. So hopefully we can continue to pair whatever temperatures that we have in the forecast up with this drier air, and that's going to become more and more frequent as we get farther and farther along in the fall season. So I did mention that low pressure center, and you can take a look at what happens on Saturday afternoon. Lots and lots of moisture continuing to move onshore of the Carolinas, maybe up into portions of Chesapeake Bay, up into Maryland, Delaware. It does look like whatever does try to form tropical-wise is just going to ride up the Atlantic coast. But the one thing that you don't see is no shades of green and no shades, or the one thing you do see, I guess, rather I should say, no shades of green, no shades of blue here in central Georgia, not only through Saturday and Sunday, but continuing into Monday, Tuesday, and take a look at Wednesday. This is the quietest I have seen the long-range models in quite some time. It doesn't look like we're going to be alone in a very dry forecast as we go into the beginning of next week. And obviously many kids heading back to school, maybe getting back in your regular routine of work. You guys might have taken a vacation with your kids for the fall break this week. this is going to be a great forecast to be welcome back to. And if we keep the drier air in the picture, which it does look like that is indicated right now according to the long-range models, no rain chances whatsoever, it is going to feel mighty, mighty pleasant. So now let's talk about Tropical Storm Jerry. Jerry formed as of just before 11 a.m. yesterday. It is still maintaining tropical storm status, winds at 60 miles per hour, pressure just above 1,000 millibars, and Jerry continues to be a very fast-moving storm. Moving to the west-northwest at 23 miles per hour. It was at 24 miles per hour this time yesterday, but Jerry should kind of still maintain its tropical storm status before finally sometime Friday morning popping up into a Category 1 storm. Looks like that's all it's going to be. It's just a Category 1 hurricane. It will have some implications over here in the northern Leeward Islands, the Virgin Islands, the Lesser Antilles. It will brush up against those areas, but not having direct tropical impacts by going directly over them. Then it will begin to curve up to the north. It will make a beeline up towards Bermuda. And once again, after we go to the east, as we continue to go up to the north associated with Jerry, Jerry does look to take a turn back out into the middle of the Atlantic east of Bermuda. And we are very thankful for that because Bermuda has seen its fair share of tropical systems get way too close for comfort, including Hurricane Imelda, which went directly over Bermuda as a Category 2 storm. So Jerry not going to have any implications here in the United States, but an area that we are continuing to keep an eye on is down here in the southern Gulf. We haven't seen any increase in the chances of development of this since the National Hurricane Center did highlight it. It started out as a cluster of showers and thunderstorms in the Northwest Caribbean, then it moved on shore into portions of Central America, the Yucatan Peninsula, and it's moved over here into this warm Gulf water. Still not really getting its act together. It actually looks like it's going to just continue to move onshore to eastern Mexico. So it will have its fair share of tropical rain over in this portion of Mexico, but overall I don't see this maybe really getting its act together over the course of the next couple of days or really over the next week. But we'll continue to keep a close eye on it, make sure that this tropical system is behaving itself because this is the closest system that we've seen that has been outlined as of recently by the National Hurricane Center, other than those systems that do form immediately off the Atlantic coast of, say, Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. It looks like we have one of those in store as we go across the course of this weekend, but going to continue to ride up to the north and not going to be of concern to us. So we do have Jerry now crossed off the list. That makes the 10th named storm that we've seen in the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season. Obviously, we're keeping our eyes peeled, and a lot of you joke around about it. But our next named storm is going to be Karen, whether that's a tropical storm, whether that's a hurricane, or maybe the tropics just decide to go quiet, which would not be a bad thing, and we just are smooth sailing through the rest of hurricane season. I do highly doubt that, but we'll continue to be on the lookout for when Karen could possibly form, which would be our 11th named storm. We're continuing to be below not only average, but below the predictions that we have seen from Colorado State and below the ranges that the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association did give us, NOAA for short. So we'll continue to cross these names off as we do get them, and very thankfully, a lot of these tropical systems so far in hurricane season have decided to stay well out to sea. 7-day forecast, 40% chance of a shower or storm throughout today, holding on to a few rain chances for tomorrow morning. Then cooler and drier air funnels in from the northeast. 76 for a high temperature, a couple degrees above or below average, but why not take it a step farther? 71 for a high temperature on Friday afternoon. Still maintaining a 10% chance of rain. I think it's probably less than a 10% chance of rain, but we're continuing to just make sure that you're prepared to maybe encounter an isolated sprinkle that lasts for about 3 to 5 minutes, then it's out of the picture. Morning lows going to be quite chilly, 54 and 53 on Friday and Saturday, and obviously going to 52 on Sunday, but I wanted to mention Friday and Saturday specifically because we are going to have breezy conditions paired up with some of those temperatures. I don't quite know if that's enough to make for some feels like numbers that are going to be below what your actual temperature is. It should be quite a while before we have to start talking about things like wind chill, but there will be a steady warm up as we go all the way into the beginning of next week. 82 as we go into Tuesday, which is our average high this time of year right now. Not going to be too bad by any means because you'll have a cool start to the day. It will take a while to get up into those lower 80s. and we're going to continue to have that dry air present. So temperatures in the 80s will feel a lot more bearable to be outside and have any outdoor activities with. So be on the lookout for a few spotty showers, maybe even an isolated storm throughout this afternoon, lingering into the evening hours. In southern counties, you guys are very likely going to walk out the door to your fair share of some scattered rain in the forecast tomorrow morning. But then as we go to lunchtime tomorrow, I think a much more pleasant stretch of weather is finally going to ensue, and we won't have to mention anything in the way of rain chances for quite some time. But given this, it looks like another dry stretch is going to be well underway. Continue to make sure that your plants and your backyard garden is staying hydrated. We'll have the latest update on our drought monitor this time tomorrow, so be sure to tune back here at 11 a.m. for a look at that extended forecast. Thanks for tuning in. Have a wonderful Wednesday.